Driving down the same old streets.
Coming up, Burning Man turns into Rain Man. Tens of thousands of partygoers are stuck after unusually heavy monsoon rains flood the annual Desert Festival.
This is the best burn ever.
But the scale of the emergency comes under question.
Because I was checking Twitter every now and then and I was seeing 70,000 people stranded out in the desert without food or without drinks. It wasn't like that.
And it's your friendly neighborhood Spiderman. The wall crawler tackles a new villain.
You don't look like Spider-Man. You don't have Spider-Man's body. Were you worried people would make fun of you?
I wasn't worried at all because it's a mission that needs to be accomplished.
But first, children show up at the Africa Climate Summit in Kenya, but these are no ordinary preteens.
If the leaders don't listen to us, by 10 years, this world would have turned upside down.
This is Just 2 Degrees on TRT World. It may come as no surprise that Africa is heating up a lot faster than the rest of the world. The severe climate we've seen over the last few years and weather disasters like droughts are clear indicators of that. The continent was hit by 80 extreme climate hazards in 2022, according to a joint UN-African Union report. The Horn of Africa's worst drought in 40 years and Algerian wildfires both resulted in 5,000 deaths and over $8.5 billion in economic damage. The report said the average rate of warming in Africa was 0.3 degrees Celsius per decade in the 1991 to 2022 period, compared with 0.2 degrees in the world as a whole. Warming has been the fastest in North Africa, which suffered several heat waves last year.
The clear message is that Africa, although is emitting almost 10% of the emission, the global emission, Africans seem to be paying a big share in terms of climate impact, because the climate variability and climate change is hitting Africa in different way, in different sectors. So that seems a bit unfair. So we really hope this report will help decision makers build their argument, because this report is meant to provide the policy-making community with the best available evidence we can provide. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, we provide the climate science part with the best available information. And I hope what will happen with this report may be to keep promoting the idea that to save life, we need to have the best information. We need to establish better early warning system.
Environmentalists, well aware of the issues, protested during the African Climate Summit in September. Hundreds rallied in Nairobi, Kenya, and called on world leaders to reduce taxes and increase subsidies on renewable energy to support climate ambitions across the continent. Africans are aware of the multi-billion-dollar economic possibilities in the renewables sector, but there is some frustration about being asked to develop in cleaner ways than the world's richest nations.
We know that we need a just transition for our communities and for our nations in general. But it's going to be hard if renewable energy is heavily taxed, if solar is heavily taxed. And we know that fossil fuel companies have lots of subsidies, which is making it more complicated to address the issue of no new fossil fuel investment. So if we want a just transition, if we want to massively scale up renewable energy across our communities and our countries, then we have to, increase the subsidies for solar.
Well, several events took place before the Africa Climate Summit got underway, including a conference for kids. We caught up with 11-year-old Jada Nima, one of the young activists from the group Spice Warrior Kids.
Jada Nima, it's really nice to meet you. Tell me about your work as an environmentalist and what you thought about the Africa Climate Summit.
First, I plant trees and I also clean up the environment. Also sensitize people about the environment and what they should do to protect it. And I think the summit is nice because we children get the chance to speak up for what we want.
What do you want the world to know about what you think about the climate crisis as a young person?
I want them to know the benefits of the forest and also of the ocean, because the forest and the ocean are so important because they hold a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do. Like the ocean, it sucks in carbon, it sinks in carbon, and same as the forest. So if these political leaders say that we'll do deforestation, the ocean will have a burden. But if they say they want to deep sea mine, the forest will have a burden to hold of sucking in the carbon.
How old are you?
10 turning 11.
So by the time you reach your early 20s, the world will be very different. Are you worried about what will happen to our planet, say, in 10 years?
Yeah, because if the leaders don't listen to us, by 10 years, this world would have turned upside down. There'll be a lot of heat. The Antarctic Ocean and the ice will have melted, and the sea levels will have risen, and there'll be floods, droughts, and just because if they don't listen. But if they listen, I won't be so anxious and scared.
Jada Neyma, it was really, really nice meeting you.
It is.
Pope Francis, he did not attend the Africa Climate Summit, but he did speak with reporters about young people's fears for the future of the planet. He also talked about the follow-up to his 2015 encyclical on the protection of the environment, as well as the dangers we all face.
Uno scientista bravo italiano, quando abbiamo fatto un incontro in accademia, ha fatto un bel intervento e finì così: io non vorrei che mia nipotina, che è nata ieri, entro 30 anni viva in un mondo così brutto. I giovani pensano al futuro e in questo senso mi piace che lottino bene, ma andiamo, quando c'entra un'ideologia o c'entra una pressione politica o si usa per questo, non va. E la mia esortazione apostolica, che uscirà il giorno di San Francesco, 4 ottobre, è una revisione di cosa è successo dalla COP di Parigi, che forse è stata la più fruttuosa fino ad oggi. C'è qualche notizia su alcune COP e alcune cose che ancora non sono state risolte e c'è l'urgenza di risolvere. Non è così grande come Laudato Si, ma è portare avanti Laudato Si nelle cose nuove e anche un'analisi della situazione.
New research published in the journal Science seems to show a direct link between greenhouse gas emissions and the declining polar bear population. The scientists say they can now calculate how much new greenhouse emissions will increase the number of ice-free days in the bear's habitats. Polar bears in the Chukchi Sea in the Arctic, for instance, went without food for about 12 days in 1979. That number increased to 137 days without food in 2020. The polar bears were listed as threatened due to human-caused climate warning under the U.S. Endangered Species Act in 2008. But these top predators are pivotal to the ecosystem. If they go extinct, it has a knock-on effect. Seal numbers would increase, which would then threaten fish and crustacean populations. This year's Burning Man festival in Nevada was more like Raining Man, as monsoon-level rains caused flash flooding and put a halt to much of the festivities. The event, held annually since 1991, was largely cancelled or delayed, and organizers even advised participants to shelter in place to conserve food and water. I touched base with my friend Spiderman, who was there.
You were at the event, having fun, and the rain started. What happened?
So it was nice and all shiny, like all sunny, up until about Thursday. And then the rain started for like a couple hours, and we thought it was just not going to carry on. But then it started going full on for about a few hours straight. And then things got really wet, and it just turned into a muddy, like a pile, and then it was people just got back into their tents, and all the art events and everything just sort of stopped. But it was all fine. I mean, it was really good. We had a good few days for the first, like 4 days actually.
I remember you and I were speaking while you were at the event, and you said that the media was blowing things out of proportion. Do you still feel that way?
I do, yes, because I was checking Twitter every now and then, and I was seeing like, 70,000 people stranded out in the desert without food or without drinks. It wasn't like that. Everybody was helping each other. I mean, it's sort of like an event for self-reliance. You know, everybody's expected to be out on the desert without any help whatsoever. So it was all expected. Everybody was taking care of each other, and then even before they were taking care of themselves, if they were taking care of others first, which was a really cool thing. Like I've never seen anything like that before. And then all the camps who got flooded, they were all accompanied by other camps that weren't flooded. So everyone was helping each other. There were no food or drink. Like everybody had food and drinks, and everybody was sharing it. It was just really just fun in the mud, pretty much. I mean, the media was just too like exaggerating everything. I don't know why, but I don't know.
Well, the media was saying that there was so much rain that fell in 2 days, almost equaling the amount of rain that falls normally there in 2 months. Were you guys taken by surprise by all the rain?
We were, yeah. It rained quite a bit for about like 4 hours, and then it stopped. But everything, it was just got into too much mud anyway. So we waited, and it got dried out. The next day, it rained another hour, and then the other day, it also rained for another 2 hours. So we just had to wait for everything to dry out to actually be able to drive out of the playa, because it was just too sticky. People were getting stuck with their RVs and trucks. So we were supposed to leave. The man was supposed to be burning on Saturday night, but it actually burned tonight at 9 p.m. And well, we had to skip it because we had to leave this morning because we were already late by 2 days. And yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the man burn, but I've definitely felt the magic of the playa and the whole thing, the Burning Man.
Speaking of all that mud you were talking of, local reports said that people were lined up, not just for hours, but for days, and that they're still, well, while we're speaking, there were still people stuck there who will take a while to get out. How did you guys get out? Was it difficult?
It wasn't. We had to wait for like 7 hours on the Exodus. The whole exiting ceremony is called Exodus from the playa bit. It took us 7 hours, but the reason for that is they're letting RVs and all the trucks like one by one out, because apparently in the previous years there were a lot of head-on collision on the freeway. So they're just letting everybody out one by one, and that's just a lot more healthy. We got out and we drove safely in Reno now, so everything was pretty smooth. It just took like 6-7 hours to get out of the playa.
Interesting. All right, cool. I think that's about it. Again, really nice connecting with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Egan.
Well, even though for some, like Egerman, the disaster was blown out of proportion, here's what the media reported in the US.
Burning Man got soaked this year, with tens of thousands of revelers camped out in mud after severe rainstorms hit the northwest Nevada desert site of the festival.
In art for Burning Man for 7 years, and we're out here with a solid group of veteran burners. Some people have been doing this for 20 years, and we've never seen anything like this.
According to local news, 2 months' worth of rain fell in less than 2 days. The week-long event in the desert typically sees 60,000 participants gather in a temporary site known as Black Rock City to make art, dance, and commune. It's named after the burning of an effigy of a man to mark the festival. This year, 70,000 took part at a ticket cost of nearly $600. But during the deluge, many found it hard to party.
He says there's hundreds of vehicles that are completely stuck in the mud. There are people walking on foot to the nearest city of Gerlach. And there are camps, a lot of European camps that fly in and do Burning Man, have left everything, their trash, their tents, their infrastructure. So this is a disaster like never been seen at Burning Man.
Heavy rain flooded walkways, muddied tents, and shut down inbound and outbound traffic. Roads were impassable, and a shelter-in-place order lasted for several days. But festival goers say Burning Man's tradition of sharing and community rose up despite the rain.
Everyone seems to be in fairly good spirits. I'm sure that there's other stories besides mine that are not so great, but I think in general, the sense is that people help each other out. People, help each other with housing, with food, with supplies. So I think there's a general sense that, this is going to end very soon, and the gates will open and we'll all be on our way home.
After the wet weekend, roads were dried up enough by the end of the festival to allow people to leave in what's known as the Exodus. Sarah Balter, Just 2 Degrees.
A rabbit invasion in Australia has its roots in Europeans traveling to the continent. Back in 1859, the English brought 24 rabbits for hunting parties. Fast forward to the 21st century, and some 200 million wild rabbits were counted in Australia last year. It sounds like an adorable furry gathering, but the animals have been decimating native plants and threatening the survival of numerous local species. Officials say the rodents cause around $130 billion in damage each year. The Aussie government says they've tried everything from biological weapons to building a 1,800-kilometer-long barrier, but the rabbit takeover continues. A man in Nigeria says he wants everyone to become conscious about waste management. Jonathan Olanlokun wears a Spiderman suit, which helps him raise awareness about pollution. Based on his social media, this guy walks the talk. Jonathan is neither stronger than the average man, nor can he scale walls, but there's no doubt he's a real superhero.
Jonathan, looking at your social media, I see someone who's obviously very passionate about what he does, but why do you do the things you do?
I started putting on the Spider-Man costume in December 15th, 2021. I do this because the outside is dirty. The outside is dirty and it needs to be cleaned up. I can't do the cleanup alone. I want people to join me. Then it became a plan. I had to bring in the creativity through the Spider-Man costume so that more people will hear my story, so that it can go viral and people will start to, take care of the environment and take the environment so serious. So it's just to catch the attention of the people, is to create a story out of a mission.
Before we get into environmentalism, you don't look like Spider-Man. You don't have Spider-Man's body. You're wearing a skin-tight outfit. Were you worried people would make fun of you instead of helping you?
I wasn't worried at all. I wasn't worried at all because it's a mission that needs to be accomplished. And I'm not worried. And when people challenge me about my weight, my stature, I said they shouldn't bother about my stature. They should bother about my mission. My mission is so important to me than my stature. And more so, this is a costume that was produced by a clothing company. They knew there are different people that will need those costumes. So they made different sizes for different type of people. So you can see XXXL, you can see large, you can see medium. So it does not concern me. The message that I want for people all over the world is that we should keep our environment clean. Climate change is real. We should begin to look at innovative ways. So I'm not bothered about my stature.
2 thumbs up for body positivity. So talk about the pollution problem in Nigeria. Is it a huge problem?
It's a very huge problem. And it's a very huge problem. The government isn't doing anything. The community people isn't doing anything. We're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. There's so much noise without work in terms of the people, in terms of environmentalists, in terms of waste management organizations that are affiliated to the government or to the private. They're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. If we're doing something, our street needs to be clean. People need to learn. People need to know about a clean environment, a clean society that's not polluted. The water is not polluted. The air is not polluted, and everything is going on accordingly with a good system.
I'm curious to find out what the response to you has been from not just Nigerians, but also the Nigerian government, because you are gaining international recognition. Has the government or Nigerians responded to you? How have they?
I haven't gotten any response from the government, except for few individuals that wants to commend this action, and they want to commend this action, and here in my state, I've met with some of the waste management authority, the GM, the general manager. He wasn't just moved with what I'm doing. He wasn't moved. He wasn't too concerned. And as an activist, there's nothing I could do than just to say about my displeasure. My displeasure, because they need to do their work well. If a Spiderman is in your town and is helping you to educate the people, is helping you to clean the street, you could have called him and you sit together on the table and see how do you reach out to more people. They're not doing that.
It sounds as though you're angry at the government, Jonathan.
Yes, I'm very angry. I'm very angry. But I am not totally agree with them, because they still, the government is still in charge of the city, of the country. So I cannot fight totally with them. But I should, as an activist that have come from a long time. This is my 19th year in this. 19th year in this. So I should be able to tell them, what are you doing? What are you doing? How are we changing our outside? I go out most times and I see how dirty our environment is. And it starts from how we take care of our homes, our large community, our smaller community, then the entire city. How are people, the community, are people, the people living in the state, in the city, are they so concerned about the waste they generate on a daily basis? I see they're not doing it. So I still give a knock on the government, and I want them to become proactive. And that is one of the reasons why I'm doing my work. I want to reach to the people in the government that they should do the right work.
Well, speaking of being proactive, I have seen you getting help on social media. So talk about the assistance you've been getting from regular people and from the private sector.
What I get from social media is when you have people that are like-minded, they like what you're doing. It's not entertainment, but it's like a creativity. It's not that you are singing, but for me, for people like you, what I'm doing is so important. What I'm doing is so necessary for us in Africa, for us in Nigeria, and for us all over the world, because of the climate change issues. So what I get from people, the few people that I get support from, these are those people that I stand on their shoulders. I get support from them, not necessarily monetarily, financial, but okay, I make a post on Twitter, on X, I make a post on Facebook, and few people comment about it. So it's enough of encouragement for me. And I want to commend journalists from all around the world that have heard about my project, the Spiderman project. They're so inspirational. They're so, they so much love what I'm doing, and they want to show the world about what the Spiderman is doing. They are not showing the negativity, but they are telling the world that somebody is doing something good to better his society.
Jonathan, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much. It was great meeting you. I am in awe of your bravery. Keep up the good work, buddy. I appreciate speaking with you. Thank you.
And that's our show. We leave you with visuals from the Munich Motor Show. This year, electric vehicles with retro designs are trending, which is a good news for the world. Europe's push towards electrification shows that automobiles powered by electricity are more and more popular with car drivers and manufacturers.